Legacy leader, is your business growing too quickly? Or maybe you're a leader at a company and there's so much incredible big change and you just need help leading this change, this growth, and managing overwhelm for both you and your team members. So here's a question for you. How do you get your team on board to inspire and motivate them to hit goals? And how do you get more ideal clients and customers to come to you? So how are you going to manage both the internal changes as well as externally? Well, I am joined today with one of my team members, Juliana Wise, a certified project manager who has worked with 8-figure companies in fashion, jewelry, beauty, tech, creative, and coaching businesses. So you're gonna want to listen and take notes. So let's drop the beat. Hey, Legacy Maker. I'm your host and MC, Elaine Lucardis, business and career coach for women of color and allies. And welcome to the Call Your Dreams podcast, where we have conscious conversations to help you create a business or career that is sustainable, abundant, and equitable to the lifestyle you deserve. Because our ancestors sacrificed so much so we could have this life of choice. Now, grab your coffee, tea, and/or boba, and let's call your dreams to create your legacy. Hey, Legacy Makers. So this episode is for those leaders who are leading change and managing overwhelm for themselves and their team. And I'm excited to have one of my team members, friends, former clients. We just moved up in a relationship where we're like a former clients to that I hired her to help me with my clients. But welcome to the podcast, Juliana Wise. Juliana is the owner for J Wise Projects, and she has worked with 8-figure businesses in e-commerce, jewelry, fashion, and accessories. And as I'm approaching my 6th year in business, I've been working with more small business owners who are making multi-6, even 7 figures, and even clients who are directors, C-suite levels, who are managing and leading teams. This is why I brought Juliana on to talk about how to lead and manage change. Juliana, welcome.
Well, thank you. Happy to be here.
Juliana, anything else you want to share about yourself? Do you like long walks at Target like myself?
Target, Nordstrom Rack, Nordstrom. All of the above.
All levels of Nordstrom.
Yeah.
I'm glad. So I want to just get straight into it. So often for us, both of us are millennials, which is crazy because we used to be the young ones.
I'm still young.
Okay. We are still young. Thank you for correcting me. And nowadays it's like the Gen Zers who are coming up. But as millennials, we are UK. I'm not going to share exact age, but kind of share around of how old we are. We're around our mid-30s. I am 35. So we're in our mid-30s and, we're in our careers where we've quote unquote made it. We're leading a team. For me in my business, I'm leading a team. I know you also work full-time on top of having your business. You're leading a team. But change is inevitable. It happens. So how do you decide what's going to change and how it affects externally to your clients, customers, and audience, and internally to your team?
Good question. Well, I have to say I am definitely a project management / business operations, bit of a nerd. So I really just love to study the way the businesses work, the way the information flows throughout the business. And there's a term in project management called continuous improvement. And it's kind of like the response to what you said is that the only constant really is change. Customers want something different. There's new technologies that come around. Your employees want something different. So it's important both to measure how things are working within your business, how things are working externally, and then make decisions on what you're going to change, how you're going to change it, and the effect that you're looking for within the business. So to your question, how do you decide? It could be a lot of different ways. You could be measuring your reviews and seeing the same thing over and over. And, if there's something that you want to address and either stop seeing, or maybe you want to see more of that, you can pivot the way that you either market your business or the way that you relate to your customers. And that could be internally or externally. You could be looking at your numbers and seeing that maybe you're only selling one type of product, but you have another product sitting on your shelves that isn't moving. So maybe you want to pivot the way that you're marketing. But the main key on how you decide is really looking at your data, whether it be soft data or, your numbers, and seeing how you can affect those or if it's working or not for you.
And sorry, I did not even share that fact about you. She is a certified project manager, which means she has a PMP. Sorry, I did not put the I in there. And I love that you share data as something that's important. But what happens so often when we're running an intuition is that sometimes you don't have that confidence to create that internal or external change. And if anything, data actually validates what you know intuitively for you to start moving forward. So it's interesting that you were sharing internally. So Juliana and I met 3 years ago, 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, right before the pandemic hit. And we're recording this February 2023. So we met 3 years ago. This is when I'm on my 2nd year. I used to do free monthly events in person. So we did meet in person.
Yep.
Prior to everything shutting down. And then for another year, I did it virtually doing free events. What I noticed externally or internally for myself as a human, it was burning me out. I was just sharing this with Juliana before we did the podcast episode. I'm like, I just can't do it anymore. Even though I am an extrovert, now that I'm older, wiser, just getting older, like I can't handle all of this. But you were also sharing about what are you noticing that are trending and changing? And so when I was doing the free events, I was attracting a lot more beginning entrepreneurs. Also, I had to acknowledge I was attracting a lot of freeloaders who wanted to get a lot of the free things. And mind you, yes, the events I had were for community, but the amount of energy I was putting in, I felt really resentful for the people I was serving. And yes, some people did convert. So when you're talking about another product, for me, I was like, well, there's another service I want to do, which is actually serving people who are more advanced in their business. And even the change I'm doing right now, which I'll share in this episode, that I've added Juliana into my team because I'm not just working with the solopreneurs anymore. I am working with entrepreneurs who have business partners, who lead a team. And if they're not business owners, they're a director level or a C-suite level managing a team. And this is not elementary school where you're just bullying someone and saying, hey, give me that basketball. It's my turn to play with it. But it's how you're going to manage and lead. Anything you want to add to that, Juliana?
Yeah, I think the complexities that come with even a 2-person team versus a 1-person team, or, as the teams start to grow, we're talking about change management, that information flow within the business. Now it's not all in your head.
Yeah,
you have to document and update and communicate and find those channels of communication. That's really what's important. And kind of what I love doing is helping people figure out how they can change their business operations to make life a little bit easier for them. And yeah, sometimes change is a new marketing strategy. It could be growth, which is a great thing to have to work through, but there is a little bit of work there to make sure that it's fruitful and that you can continue growing and not halt your business trying to communicate telepathically because it's all in your head.
Yeah. And it could also cause so much strain and energy where you're trying to remember.
Yep.
When you could just do that. So one of the things I did, or that you've also helped me do, we have my project management system, which I use Monday.com. You don't have to use Monday.com. You can use whatever project management system that's going to work for you, but also know that it's going to evolve and change. So Juliana did such beautiful work putting all the systems and steps when I used to do the free monthly events. And when I created the change, we're not doing that anymore. But now I have SOPs, which are standard operating procedures that I do when I'm creating long form content like this, like a podcast episode. Actually, Julia didn't even know this, but even we were co-working together. We were across the tables in this room. We're at the university club. But I love problem solving and I would love to get your insight from it. But I was looking at my sales conversion rates these past 2 months because I'm recording this February of 2023. I'm averaging getting 15 to 20 sales calls a month, which is fantastic. But I'm not converting as high as I want to. But the question was, at the conversion? Then I started asking, am I actually getting the right people who are coming to the sales call? So how can I make sure people that are coming into the sales calls, how can I make sure they cancel themselves out? And something that I've noticed is I do have a form for people to fill out. So now I'm making it a requirement for people to fill out that form within 2 to 3 days, because it does share, like, it does cost 4 to 5 digits to work with me. I do take these all seriously because my time is just so valuable. So what I did was I started updating my SOPs from it to see how I could change that problem. I would love to get your feedback on what I just shared and what I just did and how.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, because what you broke down is you found a problem. And the problem was the type of clients you were attracting, the type of clients that were doing sales calls and not really interested in what it is that you had to offer, and trying to find the solution of how do you, like you said, have them cancel themselves out sooner than you having to hop onto it.
Correct.
So just taking the step back and breaking down change management to, we found the problem. Now, how do we solve it? And you're like, okay, it has to happen before this step in my operation.
Yes.
And how do we do that? And not only did we able to cancel them out a little bit sooner, but you shared more information with them up front. My guess is you probably did it in an automated email, so that way you're not having to sit there and send an email over and over and over to 25 different people. So in looking at your business, that's definitely the way that I take a look at change management. You know, sometimes it's problems you're trying to solve. Sometimes it's great opportunities that you want to take advantage of. So that's a great example.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It was actually a win, because even today, 2 people canceled calls on me. That's happening later this week. And that was a win. The old me, when I was a solopreneur, didn't have a team, like, sure they could keep it. But I'm like, honestly, if I did that call, I would have wasted 30 minutes or an hour, not just me, but the other person. And it wouldn't have been a good fit. So can you share why it's important to manage and lead change versus communicating it, versus just bullying someone and saying, hey guys, we're just going to do this. Okay, let's all go do it. Why isn't it important to manage and lead change?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I almost stopped you to weigh in on how you talked about your monthly events that you did. And in the importance of leading change, it starts with knowing what you're doing before your change. So we had documented exactly how you were doing those events, step by step by step. Once you decided, I'm going to change this, the management piece goes in, looking at how did we execute these before. I now have information on Meetup and Eventbrite and on these 5 different pages of my website. Managing the change means that you're changing the way that you have marketed these events. It means that you're not doing them anymore. So we need to take a look and say, okay, if I change this, where else in my business is this exposed? How do I need to make sure that I don't have people landing on a page on my website in the back end after they click 4 different funnels down? Yeah, they see monthly events. I haven't seen one of those, and they're calling you looking for your monthly events.
Yes.
You know, in that example, the importance is that it makes you look a lot smarter as a businesswoman. You don't have messy things out there. And then the other piece of the importance of managing it is in simply making sure that the change sticks, that your team is aware of the way that they're expected to either communicate differently, act a little bit differently. It's your clients understanding that they're going to receive a different product from you. So as a service base, maybe you're not doing specific things in your business, but communicating that up front so that they get a good experience and they don't come looking for something that doesn't exist anymore. And then it's also in measuring. So knowing what you're looking for as an effect of that change. So like you just mentioned, you were pleasantly surprised when somebody canceled a meeting with you versus getting upset and forgetting that you set this up on purpose so that people would cancel their meetings with you. So it's really great to I'm all about the documentation. I know some people don't want to do that, but just having in the back of your mind, I did this for this end, so that you're comfortable with the way that things adjust. Or if they don't adjust, that means you have to look at what you changed. Are you really abiding by the change? Is your team abiding by the change? Why isn't it working? And continuing to adjust until you get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah. And also the documenting, you could say that's wasting time. I just need to focus on making more money. But like the documenting, looking at the numbers actually helps. And also seeing how I could save time. So when I was documenting the follow-up with leads and sales, like, wait, because I'm actually very high touch, as you know. So there's some automated, but there's some high touch. But I was like, wait, I don't need a follow-up. My assistant can. She just did that today. She followed up with a lead because this lead hasn't gotten back to us in a month. So she gracefully sent an email saying, hey, just following up if you still want to work with Elaine and her team. And if you don't want to, that's okay. Just let us know. Like, because I'll be honest, as a business owner, I just get really emotional. Like, I have like the emotional attachment with everybody that I talk to. Another change I did was the paid retreats events that I used to do. I used to have it like at nice, beautiful Airbnbs and hotels. And as you were sharing numbers, looking at costs, like this is so much money where it was even. And if it's not break even, I was actually losing money. And I had to ask myself the question, am I actually giving my clients what they want? So no longer have a photographer that's at the event the whole time. And when we took that out, I experimented. I was like, oh, wow, my clients are a lot more open and safe. Like I even received compliments from my clients. Like I'm wearing like sweats and a tank top, no bra. And I felt like I didn't have to be on. I could just be myself. And I shared that with my clients. When you talk about the communication part, I was sharing with my team internally the reason why we're changing it and doing it at the university club where it's more cost effective, it helps in terms of numbers, is that it actually creates a safer environment where we're not having all these photographers, videographers, and we could just serve our clients, give them what they want. Also, they don't have to pay extra to stay at Airbnb or hotel. They could choose where they stay. They could commute it however they want. Anything you want to reflect back on that change that I created in my business?
Yeah, the piece I picked up on that is that feedback loop. So not only is it creating official channels of communication, sometimes it's just making sure that you're someone who is open and warm to ask for feedback, that people feel comfortable providing the feedback to. I'm sure you didn't ask, were they comfortable wearing sweats? I'm sure it just came out.
Well, I told them they can. I was like, just come and wear what you want. I'm wearing Prada pants and a crop top. And so people showed up that way too.
Sounds very fancy.
Very LA.
But it's remaining open. It's asking the questions. It's paying attention. I know we talked about project management, but for me, I feel like I'm managing communication constantly. It's the information flow through the business. So I'm constantly looking at where could there be blockages in communication and how can we keep information flowing. That's really where it's important. So continuously getting that feedback is really where you found success there.
Yeah. And it's hard to get feedback. There is one feedback that I received from a former client, this is like beginning of 2022, where she said, the coach I got was different from when we were in the sales process because I got these accountability docs, action items when we were connecting to see if it's a good fit. And I stopped getting that after the sales process. I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I stop that? And now that's a part of it. And then we used to have an accountability coach, and we took that position off, not because of the person, but we realized that what we needed was a system of reminders to our clients of their individualized action items. We also didn't want to pressure our clients. So when we send reminders, it's in that messaging, because communication is so important, is there's no pressure to finish these actions. These are just here as reminders, just know life may happen. So can you share like how you communicate is important?
Yeah, it's funny. As you were saying that, I was thinking you probably have a client too that would prefer that you apply a little more pressure. It's one of those things. I know some people, when they're accountable to themselves, they don't move as quickly as when someone is waiting for them to do something. So just in that example, knowing who your audience is and communicating to them in a way that they will listen and hear what you're trying to say is absolutely key. And then pivoting into like written communication for me and the way that I communicate, I try to put things in bullet points as much as possible, separate like this is what we discussed and these are what the action items are, being very clear in the when, the why, the how. I always prefer to like give the lob. So like if I expect you to send me something, maybe I'm giving you a folder that I want you to put it in or a template, and maybe could you fill this out for me so that I make sure the information they're providing is useful. I always kind of take the step ahead of they don't know what I want unless I tell them. Which honestly, I just heard that in dating. Like I probably needed to hear myself say that. But
dating as wow.
It all works in business. And yeah, the fluff, it's a little difficult. But yeah, communication is important because people hear things from their vantage point and what they understand. For me, a lot of times I'm communicating to more creative people. So they're not thinking spreadsheets. I am. So I have to put them where they are so that the information they're providing is useful and helpful. And it's a bad experience for someone when they put something together and they provide something and you're like, oh, I needed it this way. So I really try to remove all of the barriers for someone and take the guesswork out.
Yes. And let's look more about leadership communication, because I'll share little tips that I do in my coaching style. But even when communicating with others, it's funny you said, like, some people might want it to be more assertive rather than more gentle. So I joke around and I ask my clients, what do you need right now? Do you need a tiger mom, or do you need like a nourishing mother? I know that's more so because I'm a coach, but even at a meeting when someone is probably sharing their frustrations, you could just have them pause and say, what do you need from me right now? Is it helpful to share your frustrations? Do you want feedback? What do you need? Just even asking that question. What tips do you have for folks when it comes to inspiring and motivating change, as opposed to just telling them what to do? How can people best communicate that? I know I gave the example of why I'm not doing lavish retreats at Airbnbs and hotels. I'll explain, one, cost, and two, I want to create a safer environment for my clients where there's not all these photography and videography.
It's in painting the picture of what the future state looks like. So for your retreats, hey guys, we're not going to be on the rooftop of the Ritz, but instead we're getting really great tacos. So people understand like why the change.
Which does happen. We do get tacos on my mess.
Everyone loves tacos. So, maybe it's, hey guys, I really need you guys to start putting this information onto this spreadsheet every Friday, right? I'm giving you extra work to do, but because we're doing this, that means that we're going to be able to cancel another meeting in 6 months once this starts to work. Or your free events. We're not doing those free events anymore, but once you guys, get to a larger scale business, I'm excited to support you in that. Or I'm not doing free events anymore, but there's this podcast that now you can listen to in your free time and hear all of this great information that I have to provide along with the people that you're bringing along with you in your podcast. So I think letting people see the change that they can expect. Sometimes it's not as pretty as the positive things that I just, gave the examples of, but we just talked about there's been so many layoffs happening and, my heart goes out to anybody who's lost their job. But I spoke to another leader who said, I could either lose the entire company or unfortunately I could let go a couple of people. But in the end result, the company is still standing and maybe when they grow, they can bring people back. So, not all change is positive, but sometimes it's a need. And just helping bring people along the journey as much as you can. I know sometimes things are confidential, but over communication is definitely helpful in change management.
Yeah, it's involving people in the conversation. As all these layoffs are happening, I have a client, she didn't get laid off, but her CEO at that company did do layoffs. And she was just so frustrated with how he communicated it. He just did a Zoom meeting and then just ended it. Didn't take any questions. That was just it, right? So how are you going to explain that? And sure, for her, she didn't lose her job, but the trust and the motivation that she has at her job is being affected.
Yeah. I think about empathy in communication. And while that is a social skill that not everyone has, having those conversations, I'm sure for him, he probably didn't look in the eye of anybody on his Zoom meeting, but having time to see how people are reacting to the things that you're saying, asking them for questions. No, I would not deliver a message and then hang right up. Example of how not to communicate. But if empathy is not something that comes naturally to you, just asking how that felt, or do you have any other questions, can really help you understand how what you're communicating is being received. And maybe you need to clarify it. I know for me, sometimes I'm very direct and to the point. So I have to remind myself to ask those questions because I think sometimes people aren't comfortable asking the follow-up questions. So probing a little bit helps. And even asking what did you hear? What does this mean for you? Or how are you going to take this back? Are all very helpful things to ask.
So I will even say at the end of meetings with my team members, I'm like, okay, so this is what I heard from you. You need this, this, and this. I need this, this, and this. This is what we're working on today. Hear that correctly? Do you have feedback from me? So I love always ending meetings that way with team members. Yeah. So I know, it's funny because you're a certified project manager, a PMP, and we've been talking a lot of soft skills. It's been heavy on that because it is important when you're leading and managing a team, because it could affect the morale when you are not speaking and listening correctly to your team. So let's talk about whole operation. Let's get into the nitty gritty. How does this affect your whole operation when you're creating change, when you're leading change to your team?
Of course, every operation is different. So, if it's a 2-person team, it only affects one or another person, but it also affects your customers. It affects your supply chain. It affects your vendors. So depending on what you're changing, it could affect all the stakeholders in your business. And it just makes me think of how do you even know if you change something, who it'll affect? Like a simple thing, like your procedure at the reception desk, like how people enter into your building. That can affect if you change it just for your employees. Then you have vendors come in and they don't know how to enter the building. So looking at who does this affect? How does it affect them? How do we communicate to them? Let's see, what's an example of change that would affect a big business?
As you're thinking of one in my small business is even having you integrated, right? Because as I'm working with small businesses that have teams, directors, and C-suite members working in corporate or the nonprofit or government, is having you involved. And it's communicating, adding the other steps and layers of even scheduling time, because we're managing both of our schedules to meet with clients that do need help when it comes to project management. We even had to figure it out when we were even working out the contract. I was even very transparent with you, hey, if you're realizing you're doing more work prepping for a meeting or even post, let me know. So that created change as well.
Yeah. And even very simple things, you sent an email introducing me to one of your clients, but then also being clear, I'm your communication's still with me. So they know to continue reaching out to you. I'm an ancillary. They can absolutely reach out to me directly, but they can keep and continue working with you as something to communicate.
So here's another example. When I first hired you 3 years ago in 2020 to come in and help creating my project management system, I already had another team member in place, Jade, who is my virtual assistant. She is amazing doing all the tech, funnels, emails, but it was usually me directly communicating with her. Mm-hmm. And we had to change even the whole operation of adding you in, because you were kind of the mediator, communicating between us, because we needed to take more time away from me communicating to Jade and me focusing on the coaching. Yep. So can you share how that affected the whole operation, even adding a team member?
Yeah, no, that's a great example, because circling back on how do you even know you need to change is when things get really confusing and sticky and icky for a second. And you're like, okay, wait, what do we need to do here? So I was helping with communicating the information to develop the marketing for your events.
Yeah.
But Jay was used to receiving information from you, getting clarification from you, and then I communicate just one piece of the pie. So how confusing is it for her to know, okay, where do I go for questions? I'm missing this date or this information. So, we circled back, and again, looking back at where the information is coming from, decided that maybe all the information relating to the event should come from me or from this document or in this folder, so that it's all in one place. And then confirming who is up first for the events, who is the person that you ask the questions to, who clarifies it. And then, going from a 2-person team to a 3-person team, it's really important to know, where is the source of truth? Where can we confirm, okay, yes, this date you communicated, it's the 3rd and the 4th. If that changes, it'll change in this place. Mm-hmm. So making sure that there's a place to go versus trying to find it in the back of someone's brain. And then when there's 3 people in the team, that means that there's 3 different places that things can get a little icky. So making sure that it is written down, or there is a place, or at least one person who's responsible for that piece of the pie is really helpful.
And I will share, it was when me and Juliana had a little break, but it's okay. She's back in my life again.
Break up to make up.
I know. She came back to her true love, guys. So when we were on a little break, and I have basically my right-hand person, Caitlin, helping me now communicating with Jade, is there was issues and problems that were happening when doing emails and the podcast that I was seeing, and why does the problems keep happening? I thought she knows exactly what needs to happen, but exactly what you said in the beginning of the episode, Juliana, everything's in my brain. Oh, what did Juliana teach me? Let me write everything down. So now we have a Google Doc of how to write emails, each team member involved in it. I write all the emails, by the way. So writing the emails is on a Google Doc, and then it's Jay that is uploading it into ActiveCampaign, and then she's double checking, clicking and typing. I step by step all the details. And guess what? It's all been in a standard operating procedure on a Google Doc. There's no mistakes.
and the time savings that you have, because I'm sure you have the email templates.
Correct.
Just change out the dates.
Yeah.
Or, like.
Exactly. We still delete the content, get the same template.
Right.
Same folder.
So it's definitely a time savings, if once you have things documented well. So it's great. I'm very proud.
Thank you. And also, what's great is, let's say James on vacation or my other team member, Caitlin's on vacation. I know what to do because it's all there on how to do it. So it's not dependent on one individual.
Yep.
So, Juliana, any other tips and advice when it comes to leading change and managing overwhelm for you and your team?
I'm going to go in the opposite, because we talked about how it works and the things that you should do. What I've found is that some businesses seem to overly document and overly communicate. And, as you're starting out and looking at the way that you want to streamline your operations or get things on paper, try to simplify as much as possible. If anything, like have one document that links out to all your other various places things are saved so that you don't lose things and create things 5 times over. And make sure that the things that you are doing have a goal and an end use in mind. I think that's what happens a lot of times, is that change is not adopted because the people that you're asking to do things differently don't have a tie to the outcome. So making sure that the things that you're asking your team members to do, they understand what the purpose of it is, will really help in the adoption of change in a business.
Yeah. And this also applies to personal. Like, I have a CFO that I work with, and she was creating a dynamic spreadsheet, not just looking at the cash flow for my business, which I know I could pull out on QuickBooks, but there's also, I actually want you to talk about this a little bit because we talked about it with another client of ours, but there's also an importance of when you're tracking and kind of looking at it through a dashboard. So my CFO created a dynamic spreadsheet for me looking at my cash flow, but I also incorporated my personal cash flow in terms of how much I'm owner's pay, how much I'm putting into my retirement, into my savings for other long-term goals. So can you actually share that too? Like, why businesses should probably even have their own dynamic dashboard or spreadsheet? Because so often people think, oh, I need to get Shopify if you're in e-commerce.
Yep.
This will show me all the numbers. Or I just need QuickBooks.
Yes.
QuickBooks will show me everything.
Yeah, that's the conversation we had around that was like, the tool is not going to solve your problem.
Ooh, say that again.
The tool will not solve your problem.
So what will?
I know you guys are tired of hearing this, but systems. And I say that because a lot of the time you're looking for that new shiny object that's going to fix all of your problems. But a lot of times if you're going on to, like, I put your business on Monday.com, it could create more problems for you if you don't already know what your process is. This happens and this email is sent and I need this information back before I can take the next step. It's really complicated when you get down to the nitty gritty, but if you don't have that information, the tools are going to make it even muddier. So a lot of the time, and even the most successful and streamlined businesses still have Excel spreadsheets. It's my favorite thing in the world. I love Excel. It's just so much fun because you can do so much with it. And I think a lot of businesses are looking to do something really fancy and, cloud-based and all of that stuff. But if you don't have it documented yet and it's not working well for you, those aren't going to fix it. So I always start with a Google Doc with, your timeline and really just simplifying the process so you even know what's actually happening once you get into that tool, because they all have some type of, it could be very simple process. Some can get as complicated as needing plugins and all kinds of coding and things that I don't even know how to do. But if you don't know what you're trying to get out of it, you're never going to get it.
And if you don't know how to do it, you could hire someone to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I had my CFO create it. But even in a personal level, after I got out of undergrad, I was $30,000 in debt in undergrad. How did I get out of it? Well, one, I looked at my numbers. I created a spreadsheet. I realized, you know what? I probably don't need this 1-bedroom apartment and no arts district. Let me move to Alhambra. Let me share a house with 4 other people and only pay $600 in rent a month. And then I got my first 6-figure job at the time, and then I paid off my debt by tracking it on a spreadsheet. I didn't use an app for that.
Love a good spreadsheet.
It was a very simple spreadsheet. What was the craziest thing? The sum formula.
Mm-hmm. Simple.
Yeah. So going back to your over documentation, it's simplifying, seeing what you exactly need. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think we do overcomplicate things. They can be very simple. Even if it's 35 steps, you should know what each of the simple steps are to get to your end goal.
Yeah. Like this happened to me last night when I was sharing with you doing sales. I'm like, how come I'm not converting as much as I want to? Then I looked, I'm like, I created a spreadsheet on a Google Doc and I was looking at the people that schedule calls with me. And when I looked at it, I saw patterns. Oh, here's a certain percent of people that are not ideal. How can I make sure that people like them don't continue to book calls with me and could cancel themselves off? That was my goal. It wasn't even the conversion rate. It said I canceled because I actually hit my sales goals of how many clients I wanted to convert. What was important to me is how do I protect my time? So I'm not on these calls. So Juliana, I love ending episodes with what is one takeaway that you want people to remember and what's one action item? Sometimes you could mix the two.
Yeah, I think I'll probably be mixing them. The takeaway is to clarify that the communication that you have put out has been received in the way that you anticipated, to make sure that you can clarify it before it gets too far down the pipeline. It could save a lot of time and anguish and create a lot more trust with the people that you're communicating with. So I think that's a friendly reminder to myself too, because I'm constantly communicating, and it can really create a much better experience for the people that you're working with to just take a moment, just take a quick moment and make sure that what they're coming away from you with is what you intended.
Yeah, I love that. It's just so simple. And I think what makes it so difficult when it comes to systems and leading the change, managing the overwhelm, it's having that first difficult conversation with yourself, or as all of you know, conscious conversation. And then like being honest, like, I don't want to do events anymore. I'm not making as much money with this product I thought I was going to do. Why? Rather than, how can I make it? Rather than forcing it, right? So obviously, all of you have fallen in love with Juliana, the Certified Project Manager, PMP. If people want to work with you directly, contact you, how can they do that? And how does it look like?
I think all business operations are very unique. So
You called it sexy to me a couple of days ago.
I love business ops. And I know a lot of people don't love it. So I guess that's a good thing for me in my business. But my website is jwiseprojects.com. You can find me there. And I would love to have conversations. I'm here to help. My motto is go where you're needed. So I'm happy to go where I'm needed within the bandwidth of 24 hours a day.
They were needed at Cabo or Hawaii. That's what you can help them do. So they could Yeah. If you want to work with Juliana, do contact me. I'm happy to do the intro, and Juliana's website, as well as Instagram, will be in the show notes. So you can look on the show notes here. And Julian, you've worked with me as a client and also a team member. And you're now also one of my team members. So if you need help with the strategy, business strategy with me or operations, you have an opportunity to do that, to work with both of us. So Juliana, for those that might be interested in working with me, you've had experience when working with me, being a team member. What feedback do you want to share on their experience of how it may look like to work with me?
Oh, amazing. I think, we talked about the person that wants that direct communication, that strong communication. You absolutely have that. And I think you do a really great job of knowing when you need to be a little bit softer and a little bit more strong. I mean, I didn't have a real business before we started working together. So that's great. Somehow we've made it here. You keep pushing me like it's a reality, which is really exciting. And I can't believe I've even saying that. So there's a testimonial. And I think, just come with your problems. I think you said there are no business problems. They're all personal problems.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I realized that it's, with me, it was the confidence to just say, this is what I do and I can help. And so you definitely helped get me there. And I think, for the people that are looking to work with you, it's to show up at the table with all of your stuff. Bring it all and sift through it. And like we said, it can be complicated, or you can break it down into 35 very simple steps. And I'm guessing at 35, yours might be 36, but it's possible. It might take some time. It might not be as icky as you think it might be, but you're never going to get to the destination you're trying to get to if you don't take the first step.
Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in working with both of us, you could schedule a 30-minute call with me at elainelu.com. That's ELAINELU.com/call. Or if you just want Juliana all to yourself, feel free to go to her website. And what's her website again?
Wise, JWISE projects.com.
Juliana, thank you for coming. And for all of you, I hope your big takeaway is that business operations is sexy.
Thank you.
So did you fall in love with Juliana? That's why I hired her to be in my team. And if you want both of us, if you want a business and leadership executive coach and strategy, which is me, and support in your systems and operations, which is Juliana, you can have both of us, where we will help you and your team members have more time back. And if you want this, schedule a 30-minute legacy business review call where you will receive 3 action items towards your business or company. You could go to elainelou.com/call. That's ELAINELOU.com/call. By the end of the call, if it's a great fit to work together, great. We could talk about how it looks like to work together. And if it's not a great fit, great. I'll refer you to other people and resources. Integrity is one of my top values. And I know we're human. We're not meant for everybody. So if you want to schedule a call to see if it is a good fit, go to elainelou.com/call. Legacy Maker, if you love this Call Your Dreams episode, we would love it if you can leave a rating and review on Apple, so more women of color and allies can benefit too. And if you have 1 or 2 friends that would get so much from this particular episode, please share. The intention behind the Call Your Dreams podcast was to contribute and give back to our people. All right. We'll see you next Thursday for our newest Call Your Dreams episode. And don't forget to call your dreams to create your legacy.